Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to talk about the DHCP. So, DHCP is nothing but Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. So, this is one of the important protocol which comes under the networking. So, mostly usable or widely usable protocol. So, this Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol, it is used to assign the IP address automatically or dynamically to the computers which are available over the network. So before we understand what is this DHCP and why do we need DHCP, let us try to understand how many types of IP assignments we have currently. So if you have already gone through the previous videos or previous classes, after the computer build, after the VM build, what we build, we will normally go to the network interface card and assign the IP address manually, correct, right? So that is called as manual assignment. You yourself will go to the network interface card, open the network interface card, go to properties, go to IP version 4 or IP version 6, and you will key in the user IP address, subnet mask, and gateway and the DNS address. That is called as manual assignment. Means you yourself will manually add the IP address to the network interface card. That is called as manual assignments. So any address that is added manually, that address will be there lifetime of the computer until and unless somebody makes the changes. So the manual assignments are the permanent IP assignments. Okay. Next is dynamic assignment, the second option. The dynamic IP assignment is nothing but instead of you, someone else will assign the IP address, and that someone else is nothing but the DHCP protocol or the service. So, why do we need DHCP? To avoid the manual errors and to make use of the inventory collection. So, inventory will be easy, everything will be whatever IP address is given, whatever IP address has been taken, all the information will be captured by the DHCP in an inventory format. If you want, you can export that. Anyway, I'm going to show you that in the lab. Okay. So, sometimes what happens, your IP that in the network interface card, it was set to get the IP address automatically. So if you go to your network interface card here, ncpa.cpl, I'll quickly show you that. Okay, here you see there are two options. One is there obtain an IP address automatically, obtain your DNS server address automatically. So when you keep this option, the first option checked, and if you would have applied OK, that means you have told the computer to get the IP address automatically from the DHCP server. That is called as dynamic one. I will explain how the discover and all will happen. So sometimes what happens, you will keep the first option to obtain the IP address automatically, but due to some reasons, if the DHCP server is not available in the network, imagine I have told you to get the IP address automatically, and you are searching for the DHCP server in the network, and you are not able to get the DHCP server. That time, there is another address will be assigned by the operating system, that is called as APIPA. APIPA is nothing but automatic private IP address. Means when the computer is set to get the IP address automatically or the dynamically, if the DHCP server is not present in the network to give the IP address for the computers, that time the computer operating system itself will assign an IP address, that is called as APIPA. 100% this question will be asked. So that is called as APIPA. Okay, and that IP address start with the range of 169. Okay, the APIPA range will start with 169.0.0.0. Okay, in this range, if an IP address that is beginning with 169, that is called as APIPA range. Okay, now you know there are three ways of assignment. One is manual, another one is dynamic, and the third one is APIPA, which is assigned by the operating system in the absence of the DHCP server. Now let us understand what are all the parameters or what is the responsibility of a DHCP server. See, DHCP server's responsibility is to send the parameters of the DHCP, mean the networking properties or the parameters, it will just go and assign to the computers. So the mandatory information which supposed to go along with the DHCP is called IP address. The first and foremost thing, IP address should be there. And then subnet mask. According to the class of the IP address, the subnet mask will be automatically assigned. Then default gateway. So default gateway is mandatory because all your traffic which is coming inside the network and going outside of the network will be passed on gateway only, will be going through gateway only. So gateway is very, very important. And then DNS. So DNS is already, you are already aware of the DNS. DNS means it is the domain naming system address. So it is responsible for resolving the host name to IP address and IP address back to host name. Tomorrow I am going to explain about the DNS, but for now you should know these 4 parameters will be assigned by the DHCP when you set the DHCP to assign the IP address. Okay. Then you may ask a question, sir, how this information will be known by the DHCP? How DHCP server will know that these are all the information I should send? Okay, the address should be like this, subnet mask should be this one, gateway should be this one. How a DHCP server will know the information which supposed to be given to the computers in the network? Yes, that is a good question if you had asked. See, there is another concept called scope. Scope is nothing but it's a parameter where it will have your start IP and the end IP, and the reservations, exclusion, subnet mask, default gateway, and the DNS. All the information we will store it in the scope, and we will tell, hey, you, if anybody from the Wi-Fi, I mean Bangalore office conference room, if they're trying to connect to Wi-Fi, you give the IP address with the range called like 192 dot, starting IP should be like this, 192.168.1.10 to 192.168.10.255. So if any new computer goes and looks for the IP address, it will give the first IP 10, then second IP 11, then third IP 12. Like that, it will up to go to 255 IP address. So along with the IP address, it will also send you the subnet mask because you will mention which subnet mask should be given, and then it will also assign the default gateway, and then it will also assign the DNS address. So every information will be stored in the scope. And when somebody asks in that network range, the DHCP will assign all these parameters. So when you go to your mobile hotspot and turn on your mobile hotspot, when you connect, right, it will connect. It will take 2-3 seconds of time. In that 2-3 seconds of time, it will do the negotiation and it will find all these things. It will have the IP address, it will have the subnet mask, gateway, DNS, everything it will have. Okay, so that is the scope. Then you may ask a question, sir, fine, if the IP address is given by the DHCP, for how long the same IP address will be used or retained in the computer? There is a concept called leasing. So when a DHCP server assigns an IP address, it is not going to assign permanently. It is going to assign it only for the 8 days. That is by default. And this lease duration can be changed. It can be increased and decreased, whatever number of days you wanted, it can be modified. And by default, it is 8 days. After the lease expiry, the IP address will be taken back. Imagine you go to office Monday. This Monday, today you are going to office and you try to connect your Wi-Fi at your office. You connected, you got an IP address. So the computer will make down your the DHCP server will make down your computer name and what address I have given and what is the lease duration. It is 8 days. So next Monday to 8:25 a.m. your lease will expire. So you went to office today and next 15 days you are not going to office because you will do work from home. So what it will do, by Saturday itself, the DHCP will try to talk because it has got all the information. What it will try to check whether you are connected back to the network within this 7-8 days. If you have connected maybe 2-3 days before, it will not renew your IP address. sorry, it will not take on your IP address if you're already connected. If you are not connected, it will think that yes, this user is not connected, maybe he don't need this IP address, then he will take the IP address back, and if instead of me someone else is connected, so for him he will give the IP address. So this removal and assigning the IP address will happen automatically by the DHCP according to the lease duration. And the lease duration is by default 8 days, and it can be increased or it can be decreased also. You can even keep it for 1 minute, or you can even keep it for 1000 days also. Okay, there is an option, I'll show you that. That's about the leasing. Now you may ask a question, sir, how this computer will understand who is my DHCP server? So for that, let me take you to the one note. I wanted to explain little bit more on it. See, this DHCP is there, right? The DHCP server. Imagine you have a DHCP server. This is your DHCP server. So by default, this DHCP server have an attitude or a characteristics. He will do self-advertisement. Whenever you create a DHCP server in your network, that person is always a show-off person. What he will do? He will always try to send the broadcast packets. What do you mean by broadcast packets, guys? What do you mean by broadcast? Guys? Can anybody please tell me what do you mean by broadcast? So there are two types of communication. One is unicasting. The first one is unicasting. So when I say unicasting, the communication, say for example, if I want to send a letter to you, what I will do, I will put to address and I will also put from address. This is called as unicasting. So if I want to send a letter or a courier to you, what I will do, I will write your name as to, and below I will mention my name from. So the unicasting is nothing but it will have both source and destination addresses, and the packet will be sent from the same source to the same destination. There is no much delay. When I say broadcasting, broadcasting is one to many. Like during the election seasons, if you would have noticed, they will spill the pamphlets, whether the people will be taken or not taken, they don't mind. Simply they will start distributing. Correct? Now, that is called as broadcasting. Means they wanted to broadcast the message, whether you listen or not. Chumma, they will just come and they will do announcement and they'll go. That is called as broadcasting. So broadcasting does not have the destination. It will only have the source information. It does not have the destination information. So the DHCP have a characteristic. It will just send the broadcast packets. And this broadcast packets will go one to many all the direction. Imagine your computer is here. This is your computer. And in this computer, in the network interface card, I have set to get the IP address dynamically. Okay, means I have told I won't give you the IP address. You try to find out a DHCP server and get the IP address from the DHCP server. So since this person, the DHCP server is sending the broadcast packet, and the client will also look for a DHCP server, and the broadcast packet will reach here. In this broadcast packet, the DHCP server information will be there. So what information will be there? The DHCP server information will be there. As soon as the packet, the broadcast advertisement packet reaches to the computer, the client computer will understand the presence of the DHCP server, and he will know the DHCP server information. What is the name of the DHCP server? What is the IP address of the DHCP server? Once he know the DHCP server information, then there is a handshake happens between your client computer and the server computer, and that handshake we call it as DORA. DORA is nothing but discover, offer, request, and acknowledgement. DORA is nothing but discover, offer, request, and acknowledgement. So with the help of the broadcast packet, the client will discover the presence of the DHCP server, means it will identify the DHCP server and it will get the DHCP server information, and it will ask for the IP address. That is called as discover. As soon as the package reaches to this client computer, it will know who is DHCP server and it will ask, can you please give me an IP address? That is called as discover. Then the server computer, what it will do? Okay, my job is to give the IP address, and I have told my administrator has given me the range of IP address 192.168.1.10 to 1.255. There are 245 IP addresses are with me. Please take, like that it will offer all the available freely available IP address. That is called as offering. The DHCP server will give the list of IP addresses are available. The complete range will give. The client, what he will do, is a very disciplined person. What he will do, he will only pick the first available IP address. So in this range, the first IP address is 10. So what he will do, can you please give me this 192.168.1.10, the first IP address? It is requesting, the client computer is requesting the DHCP server to get an IP address. That is called as requesting. So for this request, the DHCP server, this person, the DHCP server, what he will do, he will make a note of the computer name. My computer name is PC02. What is the IP address I have given? 192.168.1.10. Okay. And what is the lease duration? It is 8 days. Okay. Lease expiry next 8 days. So all this information he will make a record and he will give an acknowledgement stating, yes, this address has been given to you. And this process we call it as DORA. So now we are clearly understood. The DHCP server send a broadcast package to self-advertise himself. And that the packets are broadcast, and the client computer who said to get the IP address, automatically the packet will reaches the client computer, and the client computer will discover the available DHCP server with the help of the broadcast packet, and it will ask for the IP address. That is called as discover. As soon as he asks for the IP address, the DHCP server will send the list of available IP address, and the client will pick up one IP address out of the available list, and he will request that one particular IP address. Then the DHCP server, yes, okay, I am going to give you this IP address. Please take this IP address for 8 days or 10 days or 1 month according to the lease duration. And he will give an acknowledgement stating, yes, I have already given this IP address. Go and use this. That is called as DORA. Okay, and this is the negotiation happening. This is the negotiation happens between the DHCP server and the DHCP client, and the port connection here. The server will always use 67. The port of the DHCP server is 67, and client uses 68. Don't get confused. 67 is server. All start with yes. 6 is start with yes. 7 is starting with yes, and server is also starting with yes. 67. So server uses 67. Client uses 8. The sound 68 and client. So client uses port number 68. And okay. So this is the overall the DORA process happening between the negotiation happened between the client and the DHCP server. Okay, 100% questions will be there in the interviews. Okay. The next thing is reservation. So now you know how the DORA works. Okay, this graphically I mentioned here. If you look at here, see, the the client will discover the DHCP server with the help of the broadcast packet and ask for an IP address. The server will offer all the available IP address. The client will pick up one IP address and he will request for that IP address, and the server will give the IP address and give an acknowledgement also. This is the graphical representation. Okay. And let us understand what is reservation and what is exclusion. So reservation is nothing but assigning the same IP address permanently for a computer. Imagine you have VIP users and you have allowed that VIP user accessing the Facebook, accessing the social media, and he has got special privileges. There is no filtration happen for him. He can browse whatever information he wanted, and that that leverage or that freedom is given in the firewall because they have allowed that particular IP address. Any traffic that is coming out of this particular IP address is, I mean, it is freely, he can access whatever information wanted because he's a VIP user. Since that filtration is there, there is, I mean, that freedom is there, you have to ensure the same IP address goes to that computer always. That time what we will do? We will do reservation. Reservation is nothing but assigning an IP address for a same device permanently. That is called as reservation. So imagine you have a computer and you want to, or a printer, you have a printer. Okay. For this device, if you want to send the same IP address like 192.168.1.100 and here 192.168.1.20, if you want to send the same IP address permanently, what we will do? We will take the MAC address of this. MAC address means what? MAC address means it's a media access control address or the physical address of a computer or a device. Any network device, everything will have its own MAC address. Okay. And what we will do? We will do reservation. If a computer comes with this MAC address, assign this same IP address called 192.168.1.100. 1.20. According to the MAC address, it will assign the IP address, and the same IP address will be going, and that address will not be given to anyone else also. As soon as you reserve, you can see one IP address down in the distribution list. I am going to show you that when I do the lab. Okay. Exclusion means you are removing some certain number of IP address from the distribution. See, when you have given the distribution range like 192.168.1.1 to 1.255, 255 IP address are there. What if you want some IP address for the servers, for the printers to give manually or statically? What you have to do, you can exclude. Please don't send or assign the range 168.1.1 to 1.10, the first 10 IP address, or maybe one numbers also you can give like 1.10, 1.20, 1.30, whatever numbers you wanted, you can create the number of exclusions also. So when you create the exclusion, the DHCP will not assign the IP address in that exclusion range or that excluded IP address. It will just ignore it, and the remaining IP address it will give to the clients when they ask. It will not offer the range which is excluded basically. That is called as reservation and exclusion. So you are already aware 67 is the server port, 68 is the client port. Okay. There is another concept called super scope. Scope you already know. Scope means it's a parameter. It will have start IP, end IP, DNS, gateway, subnet mask, everything. Super scope means when you are clubbing two or more scopes together, that is called as super scope. Okay, when you are merging two or more scopes together, we call that as a super scope. Next one is the DHCP database. The DHCP database will be resided in the system32, the root folder of your operating system, system32, under that a file called dhcp.mdb. So dynamic host configuration protocol dot Microsoft database file. The .mdb is nothing but Microsoft database file. That is a file extension of the database of DHCP. Okay. So the logs will be sitting here, the DHCP server.log, that is also sit under the same place, system32/DHCP server.log. Who has got which IP address, what time the lease has happened, what time the lease got expired, all the logs will be stored in the DHCP server log, and that is useful for the troubleshooting. Okay. So there is another option called allow and deny in the DHCP. Okay. Allow means only the certain number of allowed MAC address can connect. Say for example, you have a conference hall where you have internal employees and other external employees will also come, and they don't want to allow the external peoples. Then you can define only this our 20-30 employees can be allowed to connect to the Wi-Fi. That time what you will do, you will create an allow rule mentioning their MAC address. If the MAC address is there in the allow list, then only it will get the IP address and have the connection. If there is no MAC address in the allowed list, or if the MAC address is there in the deny list, then you will not get the IP address. Why we will do deny? Say for example, some engineer is there, he always come to office, he will install the torrents and he will download the movies, he will download all the required softwares and all, and that is causing some issue. And you notice that because of this download activity, the network got choked, means the network performance got delayed. When you notice from that particular person laptop, there are a lot of data is getting downloaded, then what you can do, you can deny that person, he should not connect to the network. That time you can do the deny. That is called allow and deny. You can create the rule actually. And by default, DHCP, the backup happens every 1 hour. Automatically it takes the backup by default. You don't need to worry. Automatically takes the backup. But it stores on the same server. Imagine if the server got crashes, C drive got crashes. You cannot copy the data. That's why even though it is taking the backup, we will still configure the DHCP backup and store this MDB file in some other place, maybe in some file server or some repository we will store. If something goes wrong, we can just right click and import that file, all the IP address will be coming. Okay, that is the advantage of the DHCP backup. And you are already aware the DORA process here, discover, offer, request and acknowledgement. I have already clearly explained. Okay. Next one concept is there, that is called as relay agent. See, this DHCP, I told you, it has got a feature or a characteristics of advertisement, self-advertisement, and it will send the broadcast packets. By default, the DHCP server works within the network. Means if you have one building, within that one building or within the router, it will work. If you have multiple network, like building 1 and building 2, in between that you have a router, because router means it's an intelligent device used to establish the connection between two different networks. Imagine you have one is in Hyderabad office, another one is Bangalore office. So establish the connection between Hyderabad and Bangalore. Here you have a router, here you have a router, and middle you will take some Tata, Airtel or Jio connection, and you will establish the communication. By default, the DHCP works within the same network. It will not be going beyond the router. Okay, because router will always process unicast. Router is a very disciplined and intelligent device. It will always check the packets. It should have a source and destination. Then only he will allow the packet to travel from this to here, and he will allow the packet to travel from this to here based on the source and the destination. If you don't have the source and destination, he will discard it. Sometimes what happens, and the DHCP server sends the broadcast packet. As soon as the broadcast packet reaches the router, and since there is no destination address, he will just discard it. And that is the reason by default the DHCP works only within the network, not between the network. But sometimes what happens, you may need to leverage the existing DHCP for the multiple locations also. If that is the case, you have an option called DHCP relay agent. This relay agent. So you might have already aware of relay. Okay, relay is nothing but, you might have heard this running race and all, right? Relay means one person will run and he will give the stick to another person, and that person will run and he will give the stick to the another person. Correct, na? So basically multiple people will complete the race. That is called as relay. So what happens here? We have configured a person called relay agent in this router here. And as soon as the package reaches this router, okay, he will convert this unicast broadcast to the unicast and send it here. Here also DHCP relay is there. So then he will convert this unicast and broadcast and he will send the package here. So then the DHCP which is there in the Hyderabad sends a broadcast packet that reaches here, and I have configured the relay agent here, and the relay agent will take the information and come here and give this information to the relay whatever configured here, and this relay will send the information to this network. So now with the help of the relay agent I managed to send the packet from Hyderabad location to the Bangalore location, and here the computer who are there in the Bangalore location, now with the help of the relay agent they are able to get the packet and understand who is DHCP server, and they will request for the IP address. So basically, if you want to establish or if you want to leverage one DHCP server for multiple locations, then you can configure the DHCP relay agent, because DHCP relay agent will help you to send or transfer the broadcast packet to the another network, and once the network the broadcast package reaches the network another network, then they start learning about the DHCP server and the DORA process starts, the discover, offer, request and acknowledgement, and then the DHCP exchange will happen. Okay, so now you know by default DHCP works within the network, and if you want leverage to the multiple network, then you have to configure relay agent. Where do we configure the relay agent? We will configure the relay agent either in the network or in the firewall, I have seen, okay, or between the network you can enable it. And there is another fact actually. If you have two DHCP server in the same network, imagine in the Hyderabad only by mistake you have configured two DHCP server, then both will not work. So by default only one DHCP server should be there in one network, and by default the DHCP server works only within the network. Okay, so when you have two DHCP server, both will not work. Then you have to stop the service in one DHCP server, and then you have to authorize the other DHCP server to work as the authentic DHCP server. Then the DHCP works as it designs. I'm going to show you that in the lab. Okay, so that's it on the DHCP theory. Any questions guys here? The important one is DORA. Okay, the important one is, this is very important. DORA, it will send the broadcast packets, client will understand the presence of the DHCP server, then the negotiation, the handshake happens. That handshake or the negotiation we call it as DORA. It will learn the IP address, and the IP address will be there for the certain number of time, that is called as lease duration, and DHCP uses port number 67 and 68. And by default DHCP work within the network. If you want to leverage for multiple network, then you have to configure relay agent, and if two DHCP servers are there in the same network, both will not work. Then you have to stop the DHCP server and authorize only one DHCP to work authentically. Okay, that is all about the DHCP. If no questions, I am going to stop the recording and then I'll start the lab. Thank you.